to Some Dare Call It Conspiracy with Brent Lee and Neil Sanders. This is the Pizzagate series. Joining us on this adventure is Joel Hill from the Conditional Release Program, a podcast that delves into the netherworld of cults, criminals, con artists, and of course, conspiracy theories. In this series, we're taking on one of the most infamous conspiracy theories of the modern era, Pizzagate. Most people describe Pizzagate as a conspiracy theory, which claims Hillary Clinton is running a child trafficking operation out of a pizzeria in Washington, D.C. But conspiracists themselves say that is a misrepresentation. What Pizzagate really means is it's the discovery of codes in Podesta's emails, along with further investigation into the recipients of those emails, unearthed a smoking gun of the satanic elite pedophile ring's operation that many conspiracy authors have been speaking about for decades. But what's the truth behind the theory? Are there sinister forces at play? Or is it all just a hoax? Let's examine the evidence and try to separate fact from fiction in this complex and often disturbing story. This is Pizzagate, Episode 1. Hello, Joel.
Hey guys, absolute pleasure to meet you. We've had a bit of a pre-game chat and it's been wonderful to make your acquaintance. Really has.
The same.
Likewise.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your podcast.
I'm a bit of a recovering conspiracy theorist myself, but I would say that I was a bit more on the edge of things, just finding it interesting. I think I probably stopped believing in fluoride being a neurotoxin to make the population stupid maybe a few years ago, which my partner, who I've been with for a few years, was horrified to know that there may be an overlap in that. I comforted her by saying, I don't know, maybe it was around that time. But I didn't go to rallies. I didn't buy the T-shirts. I didn't get sucked into the whole thing. But, I used to source out, 9/11 conspiracy theories back in the day. And when it stopped being about George Bush and when Obama got in, I sort of just stopped really caring. But then all this other weird shit's happened since. And I must say, I look at a lot of this stuff sideways now. And then I look backwards and I think, what the fuck was I thinking? Really? Wow. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, but I mean, the idea of believing some of the shit about eating crickets and whatnot these days, it just embarrasses me to think that I could possibly be sucked into a rabbit hole that is so obviously full of shit. But we do a podcast it comes from an Australian voice. It's called the Conditional Release Program. And we try and keep it fairly international and we try and keep it a lot about theories and themes in the conspiracy universe. But generally we take the piss and stick the boot in because we find this whole thing so absurd. It's that thing of truth is stranger than fiction. Obviously this stuff is fictional, but the idea that it is some truth to someone makes it so much funnier. So we look at those things. We've got an Australian movement here that we take the piss out of, but we also look abroad because, I don't know, like Americans especially, God, they're funny. Bless their hearts. But that's me in a nutshell. In Sydney, Australia, hanging out, just watching the world burn and taking the piss out of it before it, finally blows up.
So what's it like? Because in Australia, what we hear from the conspiracy world is that it's obviously, it's the blueprint for the New World Order.
Doesn't exist.
Well, when it's existing, it is the blueprint for the New World Order if you ignore China and Communist Russia and Nazi Germany and various other places. But if you ignore all that, Australia is the blueprint for the New World Order. So what's it like?
There is a lot of that. And of course, that's a lot of external noise that is bestowed upon us. But we had a situation where a few of our leaders, movement leaders, went on Alex Jones and various other programs to say, yeah, man, this is totally happening. And we're fucking freaking out. And we're just watching that thinking, is this light treason? What the fuck are you talking about? You absolute lunatics. You're literally selling this country out because it's got you an Alex Jones and you think you'll get clout from it. But at the end of the day, the idea of us being put in detention camps for COVID and blah, 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 we had a zero COVID policy.
Yeah.
And it worked. And it worked until we got the vaccine. And then the vaccine made sure that the vulnerable didn't die. And we did a bang-up job of making sure COVID didn't rip through our population like a fucking scalpel and kill people that we probably grew to know and love. So they are ingrates and they're assholes, and they're really upset about it because there were a few lockdowns. But the whole world was locked down. But we're so sort of, tunnel vision in this that we don't really realize that other people didn't go to the shops for a bit as well.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Like, there's two opposing voices, really. There's one people that say that it is literally like a prison planet in Australia, that you can't do anything, that it's a complete proto-fascist state. And then you ask people like my sister who lived in Perth for a bit, and she says it's quite nice. So you just don't know who to believe, do you? Like, this is the thing. Like, you know, like it's a debate. It's certainly a debate. Like,
total 50-50. Yeah. I mean, look, if you break the law, sometimes you get arrested. And one of my pet peeves is that a lot of our events, you can only get mid-strength beer, which is fucking bullshit. Outside of that, pretty much freedom, really. I can't think of too many restrictions. We do have speed limits, which is a real drag. But
that's the totalitarian tiptoe, isn't it, though? Like, today,
100%.
You can't drive at 80 miles per hour through a school zone. Like, tomorrow, it's gulags.
Slippery slope. Yeah, absolute slippery slope. But we did have a zero COVID policy, which did bring with it a lot of, quarantine, a lot of it being in sort of 4- and 5-star hotels, a lot of that being paid for by governments. So I don't know, like
the considerate bastards.
Yeah, it really wasn't that bad. It's pretty embarrassing when you look back on what they complain about. And a few cafes went bust, and I feel sorry for them. Yeah. But, God, I mean, if that's it, okay.
Well, I think this is the distinction, isn't it? Right? Okay, nobody's pretending that everything was perfect, like, but this is the sort of the extreme positions that people are getting. It's like, are you saying that the lockdown was absolutely perfect and everybody came out of it with no harm or anything? It's like, no. It's like, well, so you're admitting that they were pointless? No. Like, well, no. There is a degree of nuance in the middle. Like,
we knew there would be a problem, but we had to face that problem instead of the other potential problem.
Yeah.
It's like moaning about a cast on your leg, isn't it? Because, like, it makes it difficult to get in and out of the bath. It's like, well, don't wear the cast on your leg and see what happens.
Exactly. And one of the things that's fascinating about our situation, I'm not sure about you guys or the States or whatever. I think the States had very little money, but we had money thrown at us hand over fist. I was paid $700 a week not to work.
Nice.
You know how great that is? To just get paid a really decent amount of money to then do like a law degree and like start a podcast. It's fucking great. Universal basic income. It was like an audition for it. And I tell you what, I like the first act. I'd love to see the second. And it's not really going to happen, but I came out of this situation really quite positively. Now, a lot of people who whinge about it, they have to refer to friends or examples or anecdotes because deep in their hearts, they know they came out okay.
So this concept of universal basic income, right? Because that's pitted particularly by people like David Icke as like, oh, it's the carrot basically. If you're getting everything provided to you, what's the point of being creative? You're just like, you'll just vegetate. Evidently, that's not the case with yourself.
No, I'm not going to work in law. I don't hate myself. I'm just really interested in law. So I'm studying it. And I started a podcast because I found the phenomena that was happening around the pandemic so fascinating. And I'm sure that there'll be other fascinating things if universal basic income becomes a reality. I mean, look, if you look at the World Economic Forum and the things they discuss, a lot of the things they discuss, this thing they whinge about, this useless eaters thing they all get really carried around. That's a bullshit quote. But the idea that people are going to lose their, raison d'etre when it comes to not having work, not paid, no salaried work, no, I'm a plumber. No, you're not. You're a person who plumbs now and then to make money so you can pay fucking rent. But that idea of that going away, that's going to destroy people. I think that's madness.
Isn't it?
It's complete madness. If that's the case for you, well, maybe you need to look inward. Maybe the problem lives in your brain.
Yeah, it's almost as if having a secure base and financial sort of security as well actually affords people the opportunity to do things that they like, as opposed to encourages them to just sit on their arse and do absolutely nothing. Yeah, I've never understood why the conspiracy world is so opposed to this idea of universal basic income. They pit it as communism, essentially, don't they? It's not that, though, is it? It's just being able to not starve to death or not panic about having to pay your bills.
I'd say the ultra wealthy, they're the ones who are behind this. They're the ones who are saying, universal basic income. So hold on, are you going to tax me for that to happen? Because I like being a billionaire and I'd like that to continue. So if you could just not do that, that would be great. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to convince a bunch of idiots to vote against their interest based on conspiracy theories that I've told a few people in high up media organizations to say, and then all of a sudden, maybe I won't get taxed and I can keep my 9,000-foot yacht.
Yeah, it's almost as if capitalism by its very nature depends on inequality and like a certain, what's the word, class system that would basically, it may mean that some people are better off than others. And that's not like a result. That's the point of it. Maybe. Like,
so you think Marx was onto something?
Maybe. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. It's difficult to say, isn't it?
Yeah, he's like this. He's like the Beatles as far as economists go. He's enduring. I mean, Keynes in there, but people talk about Marx more.
It's true.
He was a prick too. He just
absolutely, yeah. Totally. We're not advocating a Marxist takeover. We're winking heavily now because we all know that we're meeting at the docks tomorrow at dawn. So, like, but in case the authorities are listening, we are not advocating the coming Marxist revolution.
No. Well, no. Yeah, no. Yes, no, definitely not. No. We don't want to hang the rich. I mean, no.
That's silly.
I'm not that extreme. No. I actually quite like the rich. I know several of them and they're charming. But I'd like their money to be redistributed to the poor people.
Couldn't hurt, could it?
Yeah. That's the one thing that I kind of get annoyed about is this whole like eat the rich and like automatically someone's a billionaire. That means they're evil. And it's like, not necessarily, man. Like,
yeah, exactly. I know the theory behind it, but it's dumb.
Yeah.
It doesn't account for anything outside their own lens.
Yeah. It doesn't always track, does it? I mean,
no.
There's a degree of ruthlessness required to get any high-paying job. At what point in the salary scale does it tip you over into evil? Is it
exactly? Look,
it's $1 million, isn't it? Like, it's bound to be when you think about it.
Dollars or pounds. I mean, look, we've got to start thinking about currencies here. It's very tricky.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, what it takes you to be a politician, a nurse, or a doctor during the pandemic, and then Nuremberg 2.0 kicks in, and you hang by the neck. That's according to most of our cookers. Guessing you guys have the same theme running through.
Yeah, absolutely the same theme.
Still waiting for Nuremberg 2 to start.
No rich people in that list, though, which I find very telling. Just still thinking that these conspiracy theorists might well be the useful idiots of the ultra elite and not realizing it.
Yeah,
because World Economic Forum out there saying things like maybe we should tax people more so we have a more equal society. Not equal, but more equal. And there's a certain few people who might have surnames like Mercer who are like, nah, I'm going to keep it all.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to keep it all.
Yeah, people don't tend to know about the Mercers and the Bannons and they know about Steve Bannon and stuff, but Rebecca and Robert Mercer. People need to look into that a lot more.
But not to foreshadow too much, but you were just saying about the cookers being taken advantage of by rich people for political power.
Nice foreshadowing.
That might come up a few times here.
Yeah, I reckon it will.
What do you know about Pizzagate?
Oh, I know enough and too much. I actually I did a little bit of sort of research this week to listen to, because I usually listen to things like QAnon Anonymous and things like that, where you get these sort of debunked things straight away. And I wanted to actually listen to it from people who believed in the theory. And I tried about 5 different podcasts. I didn't make it through one to the end. I was yelling, "You fucking idiots!" in my car constantly. But they do believe it. They really do. And there's a lot of ambiguity. There's the emails that allude to things that aren't very good. You've got this centralized location where you can sort of channel your rage and potentially do silly things. And when it comes down to it, it just seems like a massive psyop to take down Hillary Clinton. But I think realistically what we should do is we should listen to the facts. And we should see if maybe there's a little bit of suspect in it at the same time as being kind of silly, because we know these things are cartoonish and absurd, but there's always a kernel of truth when it comes to these conspiracy theories. But you've got to find it, and then you've got to extrapolate what that kernel of truth really means.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, some people might notice some similarities. We're going to basically go do a real deep dive into Pizzagate, see how it started and where it all sort of originated from. Now, see if any of this sounds familiar. A mysterious political laptop, maybe emails that have been sent outside of the server, potentially evidence of child pornography on this laptop. Essentially a laptop, a scandal-filled laptop that somehow members of the FBI or the New York Police Department have got hold of and maybe might be covering up for certain people. Any of this sounding relatively familiar too?
Yes, horribly familiar.
Yeah, I think we did an episode on that.
Yeah, we did do an episode on this.
Hunter Biden.
Yes. Well, this is it. Well, I suppose it could be one of two things, really. It could be that the Democrats and their ilk, the Democrats, they just have a penchant for putting incriminating stuff on laptops and then, just leaving it places that people might stumble across it. Or, and this is the opposite end of the spectrum, people are very, very lazy in their smear campaigns and only have a couple of ideas that seem to work.
Exactly. That's more likely. I mean, one of the things I can say about Democrats is that they've got great cocks. Anthony Weiner, Hunter Biden, fantastic dicks. I've seen them both now.
Yes.
I don't know if that's for better or worse, but if you're going to stitch up a political party, I must say, maybe use a stunt cock because they're great dicks. I'm just saying.
Yeah, this is true. I think maybe it's controversial to say, but I think in many ways that's why people were quite sort of eager to forgive Hunter Biden. Like, this is a point, but hey up. Well, let's hear him out. Let's not dismiss him completely out of hand. I suspect it could be something like that. Now, Anthony Weiner's, his isn't quite as nice. And
it's not bad though.
It's not bad, but I think it's a sliding scale, isn't it? It's a sliding scale of how nice your cock is to what you've actually done. And then there's there's like a crosshair somewhere in the middle, not of the cock.
Well, yeah. I mean, Anthony Weiner did do some pretty nasty shit. It's a real shame. As a politician, I quite liked him, which sees what a gullible rube I am. But damn, man. I mean, sending Pixie a dick to teenagers, it's no good. You shouldn't do that. It's bad.
That's the perfect sort of segue to start it.
I just want to say, a lot of truthers in the community do not think that their conspiracy theory here has ever been fairly represented.
Uh-huh.
They always talk about this being a straw man of their conspiracy.
Yeah.
So today we definitely want to do that. That is the one thing we really have focused on to break down exactly what they believe it is. Mm-hmm. We've taken it down to what the actual Pizzagate people believe.
That's refreshing. That's good.
The best way to start looking at Pizzagate is something that you just reminded us of, Joel, but I'd actually completely forgotten about this aspect of it, and that is Anthony Weiner and Anthony Weiner's laptop and sexual predilections, essentially. Who is Anthony Weiner? Well, he's a Democratic Party member and two-time mayor of New York candidate. And in August of 2016, the New York Post published a series of articles showing evidence that Anthony Weiner had been involved in a sexting scandal. Now, has anyone ever noticed, sex people, they never really look kind of like sex people.
These are sex people. I thought that was the reference there.
But these sex people and their sex festivals, they're always sort of people that you wouldn't immediately go, oh, yes, that would be an attractive prospect. Who knows? So, why is Anthony Weiner important? Well, aside from his hilarious name, he was married to Hillary Clinton's aide, Humour Aberdeen. Now, Humour Aberdeen is of Muslim descent, and she's often smeared by people like Fox News. Her mother's got something to do with an organisation called the Muslim Sisterhood, and I think what they try and desperately do is paint this as the sort of women's version of the Muslim Brotherhood, which my understanding is a terrorist organisation. I don't think that's what the women's the Sisterhood is about at all, but they tend to try and paint it as that. Now, he was actually married to Humour Aberdeen for 6 years, from 2010 to 2016. But that's not enough for young Wiener, apparently, because in 2011, he started sending explicit photos of himself to 6 women over Twitter. Which takes some bottle to do it if you're just chappily living down the street. But if you're a sort of internationally known politician who's going for the mayor of New York, to send naked photos of yourself to strangers on Twitter, take some balls, if you'll excuse the pun.
And he showed them.
Apparently so. This bloke has obviously got some serious game as well. Because in 2012, so a year later, this woman slides into his DMs and basically starts moaning about him sending explicit photographs and saying, this is revolting. Why on earth would you do this to different people? And he responds by apologizing and sending a nice picture of his penis to her. Now, for whatever reason, this actually, this woman's sort of taken aback by this, and they begin a phone sex affair that lasted for over a year. So this all came out in 2013, and it destroyed his mayoral campaign, and he admitted to sexting about 10 women. But at that time, all was sort of forgiven. He was even sort of continuing as a mayoral candidate, as far as I know. But then August 2016 comes around, and the New York Post claims that he sexted even more women than that, and sent one explicit picture with his infant son lying on the bed next to him.
What?
Which is unusual. Now, the thing is about that is I don't think it actually implies that he's sort of that he thinks that the child is an integral part of his sexting. More that he's just so obsessed with sexting that he's forgotten that he's babysitting the kid, so to speak. Yeah, I think it's more aligned with that than, I don't think we've got any Ian Watkins things going off here just yet.
No.
But off the back of this, Humour Aberdeen leaves him and he's kicked out of the Democratic Party. And it does get a bit sinister because it transpires that in September of 2016, the Daily Mail in the UK reports that he'd actually sent naked photos of himself to a 15-year-old girl, which I'm pretty sure we could all agree is not on.
Not good at all.
No. So his laptop was seized, okay? And apparently there were loads and loads of emails from Hillary Clinton. Now, this is the scandal involving the FBI and Hillary's emails. So basically, the long and short of it was she was accused of having a lot of emails on a personal server, not encrypted. And by this, she's basically sending secret documents around in a manner that is slapdash at best. Now, the argument was made, and this was true, that actually the documents that became secret weren't secret at the time that these were all sent. But it's still a bad look. It's still an incredibly bad look. It's not nearly as bad as some things that have happened, but particularly when you've got to remember at the time Hillary Clinton was running for president, she's trying to give this sort of impression of herself as professional and capable, and not the sort of person that would accidentally email her friend top secret documents. So in many ways, this was pretty bad, and this is when James Comey started investigating the Clintons' emails. Now, obviously, the right wing. They loved that. They were completely all over this, and they decided that there's no smoke without fire. Hillary Clinton's guilty. And you'll still hear to this day, when are they going to investigate Hillary's, I think it was something like 33,000 emails or something like that. And people will still have that trope, and they don't understand that it was investigated.
Yeah, heavily, yes.
It was investigated heavily. Now, if she wasn't Hillary Clinton, would she have been punished slightly more? Well, I'll put it this way, right? Okay, we had Stars of COVID on the other week, and he was talking about this because in relation to Hunter Biden's laptop. And he quite rightly said, look, if I did that at my job, or if any of us did that at our job, your feet wouldn't touch the floor. But at the same time, one could understand how if you've put all this money behind a presidential candidate, that you might not be so keen to go, all right, 2 weeks before the election, let's scrap this. Forget everything that you've heard about Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders, anyone fancy a bit of that? Now, the true scandal of these emails that was actually never really sort of widely talked about was the fact that the Democratic Party did two things. One, They coordinated to make sure that Bernie Sanders would not be the candidate for the Democratic Party, even though he was considered more popular with both the voters and with the grassroots of the party. They felt that he was too left-wing, and they felt that he wasn't a good look. He probably would have won, actually. Now, the second thing that was found in the WikiLeaks thing was that when Donald Trump was announced as the candidate, Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party illegally promoted him in certain Republican media nodes because they felt they could beat him. This is the irony, because what happened was, this is another whole other story, but basically there was a gentleman called Robert Mercer who'd got this company called Cambridge Analytica that had been designing slogans such as build the wall, lock her up, and the concept of fighting against the deep state since as early as 2014. And they had a candidate called Ted Cruz who was lined up to be the presidential candidate. Now, all of a sudden, Hillary Clinton is affording Donald Trump, who is a huckster and a used car salesman, essentially, with all this free publicity and framing him as anti-establishment and a bit of a loose cannon. And this actually played into what voters wanted. So ironically, the Democratic Party actually helped get Donald Trump elected by pushing him as a potential candidate, thinking they could beat him. What was interesting was in March of that year, now we've got to appreciate that we're talking sort of autumn. Now, in March of 2016, John Podesta's emails to Clinton had been hacked. And so for months and months and months, all of these emails from John Podesta were suddenly in the public sphere, and people started having a look at them. On October the 30th, 2016, is when we start to see the Pizzagate plot developing. So this is months and months. These emails have been in the public domain, being examined for months. And just prior to the election, people start to think that maybe these emails might be problematic in some way. So on October the 30th, 2016, there's a white supremacist Twitter account, which basically its shtick was to pretend to be this Jewish lawyer named David Goldberg, but he would put out anti-Semitic and far-right and white supremacist rhetoric all the time. And on October the 30th, 2016, it shared a tweet saying,
"Rumors are stirring in NYPD that Huma's emails point to a pedophilia ring and Hillary Clinton is at the center. Hashtag Podesta emails 23.
White's Podesta emails 23. I'm not entirely sure. But this was the first time that anything was mentioned off the back of this supposed laptop. And it linked to an account named Carmen Katz. Now, since all of this, Rolling Stone magazine did a bit of a sort of dig, and they think that this is an attorney called Cynthia Campbell, and she's sort of very pro-Trump, very, very sort of, she later got into QAnon and stuff like that. But this Carmen Katz account got some information from a 4chan post that had already happened in July 2016, where a supposed FBI agent did an Ask Me Anything and was asked, basically, does Hillary Clinton have sex with kidnapped girls? And so the AMA said yes. So around the similar time that this David Goldberg started promoting it, this Carmen Katz started promoting the idea that Hillary Clinton was having sex with children. Now, this just so happened to be on the run-up to the election, so that might have something to do with it, but we will find out. On October the 29th, a Facebook page called The Rant had a post from a man called Fat Told Man, and he posted, NYPD Sex Crimes Unit was interested in the Wiener case. So we're already starting to see these essentially, we've got 3 different anonymous sources from Twitter, one that's informed by an AMA on 4chan, and they're starting to burble the rumors that Hillary Clinton is involved with sex with children, and then this is all off the back of the laptop that was seized from Anthony Weiner. So Carmen Katz posted on the 30th,
My NYPD source said it's much more vile and serious than classified material on Weiner's device. The email details the trips made by Weiner, Bill, and Hillary on their pedophile billionaire friend's plane, the Lolita Express. Here we go.
Yup.
Hillary has a well-documented predilection for underage girls, and Mr. Weiner could not bear to see those details deleted. We're talking about an international child enslavement and sex ring. Not even Hillary's most ardent supporters and defenders will be able to excuse this.
So the child sex angle is being tacitly connected to Jeffrey Epstein there. So just in case anybody doesn't know, hasn't heard our Jeffrey Epstein episode, the Lolita Express was his private plane that he used to transport people all over the world, and sometimes to his Caribbean island that he called Little St. Jeff.
Little St. James, wasn't it? Little St. Jeff?
Oh, yeah, it's called Little St. James, but because his name is Jeff, he nicknames it Little St. Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's the perfect way to introduce these little trivia snippets, so don't panic about anything like that, man. So also on October the 30th, a member of Godlike Productions, the conspiracy message board, we all remember that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Way old school.
Yeah.
Posted a message about the Clinton sex rings, and basically it said,
Godlike Productions. Breaking, it's worse than classified emails. Political pedophile sex ring exposed. I have inside sources and can confirm privately to Ahmad my credentials. There are at least 6 members of Congress, several top leadership from federal agencies, and others all implicated in a massive child trafficking and pedophile sex ring. This being directly ran with the Clinton Foundation as a front. Hillary, Bill, and all of them know, and were active participants. DC, FBI, the Department of Justice, they all fear a complete loss of public support for the federal government. This will be breaking in the next few days. Leaks are also coming. Both parties, all levels of government. It's about to come apart.
So, yeah, we can see that it's starting to build the case, basically.
Sounds very familiar, though.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like, obviously, I've been a truther since 2003, and this is the same sort of stuff that David Icke and Kathy O'Brien was talking about.
Yes,
linking
very much so.
Hillary Clinton. And it's always been that Hillary Clinton was a lesbian, and that she was raping women and children. But it also goes back to William Cooper.
Okay.
He also was talking about this, which one day when we do our QAnon episode, we will dive into that source.
Get some pale horse going on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
I have a theory about Q, and we'll get to that at some point.
Ooh, I want to know it.
It's a very good point, though, about the Hillary thing. You know, like they've been trying to pit her as a rapist of children for ages. Now, is it, again, you can look at it two ways, basically. One, there's no smoke without fire. Yeah.
Kernel of truth.
Yeah, or two, they keep trying the same thing over and over again, basically. So
yeah, it's a thing. Like basically, there's nothing worse than child sex abuse outside of mass murder, and even then they're comparable. Yeah. I mean, like it's just the most heinous thing you can possibly do, and it's unimaginable to most people who occupy a reasonable mind. So. I mean, why not stitch someone up with this? It also makes them fair game for execution. Very few people in the room would end up and say, I wouldn't kill a pedo, so it's a good playbook. Makes sense. It's what you'd do if you were basic. And they are.
The next place, and I didn't realise that this was one of the sort of key people that started this, a chap called Sean Adel Tabataba. What's his name? Sean Adel.
Try that again.
Taboo, I think is his name.
Tabatabai, I think it is.
Yeah, that's him.
I pronounced it recently. I think it's Tabatabai.
That's the one. Thank you. Tabatabai. That's it. Yeah. He worked for David Icke.
Did he?
Now, what's interesting is that prior to working for David Icke, he worked for the BBC. And basically left the BBC he was a producer for the BBC, went to work for David Icke, and then afterwards he set up the site Your Newswire. Can anyone remember Your Newswire?
Yeah, that's where it is. We mentioned him recently. Yeah.
So he's gone from the BBC to David Icke. Apparently that didn't bother them, and then set up his own site, Your Newswire, and he put out this article.
FBI Insider. Clinton emails linked to political pedophile sex ring.
Now, the FBI Insider was the previous post on 4chan, the AMA. Now, this person had already claimed that Bill Clinton would die in 2016 and that George Soros ran the US government. So take it with a grain of salt.
Maybe he died inside.
Yeah. Now, what happened was that basically right-wing outlets started picking up this story, the story of the Clinton emails linked to political paedophile sex ring. And a lot of them came from a place called Veles in Macedonia. Now, this is, again, connected kind of to the Mercers and Cambridge Analytica. There was an entire town basically set up in various places. Macedonia was one, where they'd hire students who were off for the autumn break or whatever to sit there and create and disseminate anti-Hillary Clinton stories. Essentially, they were all that she was a paedophile or that she was a cannibal. Wow. And yeah, I forget the actual name of the place, but it got the nickname Trump Veles after a while because essentially everybody that was working there was employed by the Trump campaign, by someone. There was a mysterious sort of third party that had arranged this, like nothing to do with Steve Bannon or the Mercers or their connection with that area through Viktor Orban or anything. Like that would be pure speculation. But yes, this is what happened. Now, on the 1st of November, the first article comes out about this. So this is from a website called subjectpolitics.com. And they ran a story that Hillary Clinton had been raided by the NYPD. This story was also shared by a website called Red State Watcher. Now, the Subject Politics article, the headline was, "It's over. NYPD just raided Hillary's property. What they found will ruin her life." And it says,
to their complete shock, the NYPD ended up finding, when raiding Hillary's property, on those devices in the form of 650,000 emails connected to her personal email server. Now her private property is in the hands of the NYPD and the FBI.
And the article actually shows a picture of two NYPD officers holding bags of seized evidence standing next to a New York Police Department truck. And it says,
Clinton, who has referred to Aberdeen as a second daughter, lashed out on Saturday after the FBI's handling of new email reviews that arrived as unexpectedly as did the revelation that Weiner was involved.
And so that's all that the True Pundit the Subject Politics article actually said. She's been raided by the FBI and the NYPD, and it showed a picture of two with a huge bag full of evidence, supposedly leaving her residence. The following day, the True Pundit posted,
NYPD blows whistle on new Hillary emails, money laundering, sex crimes with children, child exploitation, pay to play, and perjury. NYPD detectives and prosecutors working on an alleged underage sexting case against former Congressman Anthony Weiner have handed over a newly found laptop that he shared with his wife Huma Abedin to the FBI, with enough evidence to put Hillary and her crew away for life. NYPD sources said these new emails include evidence linking Hillary herself and associates to money laundering, child exploitation, sex crimes with minors, perjury, pay to play, and obstruction of justice. What's in the emails is staggering, and as a father, it turned my stomach, the NYPD chief said. There is not going to be any Houdini-like escape from what we have found. We have copies of everything. We will ship them to WikiLeaks, or I will personally hold my own press conference if it comes to that. The new emails contain travel documents and itineraries indicating Hillary Clinton, President Bill Clinton, Weiner, and multiple members of Congress and other government officials accompanied convicted pedophile billionaire Jeffrey Epstein on his Boeing 727 on multiple occasions to his private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
And the article goes on to say that Hillary was seen at the island 6 times, whereas Bill was seen at the island over 20 times. Now, if we're honest, I'm not sure that was the best sourced article, but we can already see that basically The plot is that Wiener's laptop has got some connection to Jeffrey Epstein, and that Bill Clinton and Hillary have been flying off to the island. Now, I could see why people might actually sort of be a bit wary of this, because it's certainly the case that there was a degree of evidence that the Clintons certainly knew Epstein, and that Bill Clinton had been recorded on certain flight logs. So at the time, particularly because people didn't know a lot about what was going on with the case. But yeah, you can understand why people, if they're told that this is what's on this particular laptop, would take it seriously.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. On face value, yeah.
And that is a wrap for now. Join us next week as we continue down the Pizzagate rabbit hole. You can gain access to this entire series on day one of release by joining our Patreon for only $5 a month. Included in this package are 4 of Neil's books, my entire discography, early access to episodes, Patreon-only episodes, and a PDF of Headache Comics 4, courtesy of Nicholas C. Gray. You can also support us by subscribing, sharing, liking, or leaving a review wherever you are listening to us. And please follow us on Twitter @SomeDarePodcast. Thank you for listening.